This year we expanded our garden quite a bit. Well, this is just our market garden. This video is all about us getting it planted.
Watch us get it done.
We are starting today on May 31st getting potatoes planted. Now, planting potatoes probably happened a few days prior, but this is when I first got footage. You can see our seed potatoes are way overgrown, but more on that in a minute. Of course, to get the garden to the point where it was ready to plant, there was a lot of prep work that went into it that is not filmed in this video. This is a brand new garden space, so we had to completely tear up the field that used to be there, till it multiple times, and get everything ready to go. You can see just again how overgrown our seed potatoes are. That's because these seed potatoes spent all winter in our crawl space, and this is what they look like. Super overgrown, but we've planted them this way before and they work great. Now we are growing some varieties this year that we wanted to make sure to get the most of, so I did cut them apart ahead of time and let them kind of heal over before planting them, and we just wanted to get the most out of all of those seed potatoes. After they were planted, the rows were hilled and this covered the drip tape nicely, and that's about it for planting potatoes. We just put them in the ground and kind of walked away and got onto some other things. Now, since this is a new garden space, setting up all of these timers and all of the irrigation system, that was a huge task this year. That took us a lot of time, but frankly, it really wasn't that bad either. Now, on the other side of the garden, we are hilling 4 more rows for 4 more rows of potatoes.
That's what 22 rows of drip tape looks like laid out. Now it's weed mat time. Real quick though, just look at how it's starting to look today. Gorgeous. Quite a few weeds in our hayfield though. That's a project for another day. Today we are laying a bunch of weed mat for what will be our chili and pepper field, and it is June 4th today.
6th.
Oh my gosh, it's June 6th today, so we feel like we're really behind, but yesterday we had a brutal amount of wind. The day before that we had a brutal amount of wind, and about 3 days before that we had frost. So we're not late by what we're allowed to do as far as our conditions. So let's get some weed mat laid.
We got our drip tape laid. We did about 3-foot rows apart, and the rows have 1-foot emitters, and we're going to plant every 2 feet. That's the plan.
Okay, let's go. It is finally time to plant some tomatoes out into the garden. Earlier this morning we did the weed mat over there, which took a considerable amount of time. So now we are kind of waiting for it to sit and relax before we burn holes in it. and we're gonna switch our gears to transplanting tomatoes. So now I get to organize all the tomatoes, and John gets to start planting all the tomatoes, and then I'll help him as we go. And it's going in the field right behind us, and you can see all that drip tape back there that's kinked and expanding and bowing, and going to be a little bit frustrating to work with. So as we go, we will be burying that drip tape today. Let's get these out and start working. Okay, so he is out here starting all of the hard work, but before I get all the tomatoes out there, I wanted to show off how proud I am of myself for grouping them ahead of time. When we went to plant the greenhouse, we pulled some of the varieties so that they would be kind of separated, so we could test drive some growing in the greenhouse as far as that variety of tomato and some out here. So I already went through and sorted all of these tomatoes, and I'm really proud of myself that I did, because it has made this task so much easier. So I'll show you the varieties that we have. Right here, he already emptied one basket, our tried and trusted bush steak. Those we are going to be trellising on 3-foot spacing using a Florida weave, as well as our sunrise sauce. And how I group these is each basket I wrote what's on it on a little piece of tape and the amount that are in there. So I don't have any mixed baskets except for down there I do have some, but I know there's only that kind in that basket. For instance, there wouldn't be a super steak and a super sauce mixed together, and also a super sauce mixed in with the sunrise sauce, if that makes any sense. Anyways, I'll tell you some more about the varieties. We have a super sauce. I grew these last year, really liked them. They were a big Roma tomato. We have super steak. We have beef master. Down here, so this is a mixed basket, but I know exactly what's in it. We have a black strawberry, a ruby crush, and 2 tasty. And I'm able to see how many I have, so when I pull them out into the field, I know exactly what to put. We have 1 Juliet we are test driving, and then we have all our cherries grouped now. So, oh wait, real quick, Goliath Early Bush right here. Those are before the cherries. Then the cherries will start. We have sun cherry, chocolate cherry, black cherry, berries, crazy cherry, pear, Sun Gold Select 2, Sun Gold the regular one, Artisan BB, and then we have Artisan Mix also in here. I knew I had both of those. Sun Peach, Blueberries OG, and Sparky for extra long storage life. So that's all of the cherries right there. Then I kind of grouped it over here. We go into more of our bigger, like, heirloom looking tomatoes. So these aren't all necessarily heirloom, but they might resemble that to what people think heirloom looks like. Anyways, we have Mortgage Lifter. Then right here, one we really love, Cherokee Purple. And then Old German. We really love all of these actually. Pineapple, Grandma's Pick Hybrid, Virginia Sweets, Amish Gold, Anise Noir, that's a new one to us that we really liked last year. Then we have all our Chef's Choice varieties. We have Chef's Choice Bicolor, Chef's Choice Orange, Chef's Choice Pink, Chef's Choice Red, Chef's Choice Black, Chef's Choice Stripe, and Chef's Choice Yellow. Chef's Choice Stripe and Black are new to us this year, and I'm really excited to try them out. So this is kind of how I'm lining it up, and then I will walk them out and put them out on the field where they're going to go. So these are the last couple of bush steaks that are going to be going out with the bush steak row. I'm just going to be cutting those bottom ones off. I could just use my hands, but I don't really want to have black tomato hands by the end of this. And since these are determined to grow to a certain height, I am just going to only cut that much. For some of our indeterminate varieties, I will make sure I kind of go up a little bit more with burying them deeper. But last year we buried them excessively deep. I don't know if it totally helped. I mean, I'm not going to say it didn't help, but I kind of want to try to not go as deep with the tomatoes this year. So now I'll just walk them out there to him and get them out on the field. Today is June 7th. Yesterday we got the weed mat laid down and the tomato garden planted, but today we are doing the chili pepper field, and before he plants, he obviously needs a hole to plant it in. So this is our little jig that my dad made up for us, and it is just a couple of old Folgers coffee cans. This one has a hole in the bottom. This one does not, because it is our place mark. So I find our last drip point right there, and then I put it on top of it. See that drip point? Put it on top. Go over here. Burn my hole. There is our point where we're going to plant. And we are spacing these 2 feet apart. So let me just show you how fast I can go with this thing. And I don't have to bend over all too much, so it's not that bad as far as being tough to do. But all the way down the row. And we can somewhat follow these lines on the weed mat, these blue lines that go all the way down. We tried to lay it so we could. But yeah, just all the way down, and then come back and all the way back. And it's keeping me right on. See, that's wet in there. We kept the water on so that it would cool the ground, and we are spot on. And if I ever do get off when I'm doing this, I can easily just adjust it a little bit and be able to make that correction. So, pretty easy.
What's with all the bricks?
All the bricks, because it's very windy. Yesterday, when we got this all the way put together, a big gust of wind came and blew part of it off, and it was very apparent to us that we really needed to add a lot more security to the top of this. So every brick has a staple inside of it, holding the brick right there and holding the staple right there. We noticed that these landscape staples, like here's one right here, they hold, but not really when the wind's coming. Like, look at this one. It's like starting to tear right out of here. So all the bricks are added security, as well as along the border over here. You can see we just threw soil right up on top of it, and that's helping to hold everything down. We know that there's other ways to hold it down from the wind, but we had all these bricks already just on the property, luckily, so we're putting them to use over here. Kind of a strange application, but it works. And I know there's other ways that people do this, but this is just how we're test driving it this year. This is our first year, and if you've been following our channel, you saw our garden last year was a lot different. This is our first year that we're trying to weed mat stuff to save us time and all of the effort that it's going to take in the future to come back and weed and weed and weed. And you can see that one over there. Those are strawberries that will produce this year. They're everbearing. Those we weed matted as well. We are leaving some spots where we're going to have to come and weed, but this big field right here, we thought it made a lot of sense to go ahead and weed mat it, so we're trying it out, and we'll have to let you know what we think about it. We ordered this weed mat online from Vevor, just a website.
How do you spell that?
Vevor, I want to say, and it was a decent price. Like, I think we got 300-foot rolls that were 6 feet wide, and they were $60 or $70, something like that, like $65.99 or something like that. So that amounted to a lot of weed mat for a decent price, and we're hoping to reuse this weed mat in the future. We will see, though, with how we ended up burning these holes, and if piecing this puzzle back together in the future is kind of a nightmare, it might become a disposable item, but we're going to see. We're going to try to reuse it again because, of course, we want to be able to do that. But we'll have to let you know at the end of the season if we recommend this weed mat and how it performs. This weed mat is a woven weed mat, so it's supposed to let water right through, but of course not let any weeds through except for, around your various holes. You have to go and weed those. So now we just have seemingly not that much, a couple more rows, a lot more planting, and we're getting this fielded. It is entirely possible we planted way too many Big Jim Hatch green chilies. Hatch is the variety name from Sandia Seed Company. Obviously not grown in Hatch, but back there, 14 trays of them. That's a lot of chili. Let me show you in the greenhouse. And in the greenhouse, we still have, we're gonna try a Joey Parker variety. It's a Hatch Red medium.
And then an extra hot red chili, also from Sandia Seed Company, that are Hatch. And then here's the more that Joey Parker, and then we had another kind over here. Well, Big Jim Legacy. We're gonna be trying that too. It's a different seed from them as well.
That's a lot of green chili. What are you showing me?
These roots are all coming up from the bottom. And the plants are all yellow and smaller than they should be because we got some bad potting soil this spring.
We did.
I don't know whose it was. Do you?
I don't know whose it was. So we had that happen, that problem that he's talking about. We had that happen with a batch of tomatoes that we were selling, and we switched them up. We up-potted them into something else and got rid of most of that soil, and they all bounced back. So the soil you pot up your plants in really does matter. I'm surprised these don't look that bad, but some
They're doing a little better than those
others.
tomatoes, I'd say.
Yeah, they are doing better than tomatoes. You can kind of tell the difference right here. We did 2 different sets of plantings, but you can see this plant right here, these 2, substantially smaller than that one back there in that whole row. So that was probably the first planting versus the second planting for size reference. But some of them we think got potted up in bad soil along the way, and they are just kind of yellowy and don't look that great. Other ones look great. And mind you that today they are experiencing their transplant, so they will look a little bit more stout in a couple days here. So what has been your process for planting these?
Pointy stick that's long enough to not have to bend all the way over.
Make a hole.
Make a hole in the wet spot. Go down. And you go all the way down the row. And you get to the end of the row. And then you turn around and you do it again.
For a lot of rows.
We got over 1,000 plants we're going to try to do. So
we are going to do over 1,000 plants, is what he means to say with excitement.
Yep.
It's going to be great. So all of these are Big Jim variety, and all the rest of the trays that we had grouped over at the greenhouse, Big Jim, and then we have a couple more varieties that are going to come out here, as well as all of like our jalapenos and banana peppers, and just all the peppers. They are coming out here.
Yep. We got 6 rows done now, close to.
Yep. We are on to planting our last row of chilies, and we're going to race. So what are the rules? No cheating? No pre-poking holes?
I'm pretty warmed up. I've probably planted 950. And how many have you planted so far?
A tray. So we'll see who wins. Okay, waiting for him to get down there. For tools, we have some sort of a poker stick. His is better than mine. Mine's just a piece of rebar. We poke the hole, we pop the plug in. We're going to count and see who gets the most at the end. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Set.
Go!
Okay, I'm already behind. Quality over quantity.
Oh, it's a race. Go live.
The trick is also not to stab the drip tape as you're popping these plugs in.
I'm crushing ya.
I'm winning.
I've got the double-handed technique.
You have a lot more practice, so that's not really fair, but you did all the work. I got the last one.
All right, we'll count. You won.
I think I won. All right, you count yours. Be honest. How many?
I got 20.
28. I win. Today's June 8th, and we are getting all of our winter squash planted. I'm just pulling the plugs out and making a little basket. These are all Marigold winter squash. Look how good they look. So this is going to be like delicata, spaghetti squash, Marigold, all those viney things. I'm sticking a couple pumpkins in here too. which John will not be thrilled about, but our kids will like it. So let's get these planted. We're doing 3 rows at 3-foot spacing. We are planting beans to have dried shell beans. Now I have a bunch of different bean seeds here. These ones are actually from an organic grocery store, and this only cost me, well, under $11. This hand over here, $25. These are from a seed company, and I mean, look at the difference in how many bean seeds I'm going to be able to try from the different places. So this is a test to see if we can grow enough dried beans for our pantry for the winter to make this make sense as far as like if it's worth it to do this. Anyways, so we have a couple of different varieties that we're going to be trying. These ones that came from the seed company, it was Seed Nerds who I ordered these from, and I'm not quite sure they have the varieties correct, but right here, I'll show them to you. These are supposed to be cranberry bean seeds. And you can see just how many there are, not very many. But it'll be something to try. These ones right here, I have 2 packages of these. These are supposed to be white kidney beans. These ones were supposed to be light red kidney beans. They are not, so I'm going to plant them with the white kidney beans in the same planting. And these are supposed to be black turtle beans. They're not black, so I'm still going to plant them, but I don't really think they're correct as far as what they are. The other beans that we have that are purchased from the organic grocery store are Great Northern beans. These are a white bean. And then we have cannellini beans. These are also a white bean. Pinto beans. People know what pinto beans look like. We have just black beans. There are little black beans in here. And dark red kidney beans. So we are going to seed these using an earthway seeder. This is kind of a first time really doing this. So we have our 2 different seed plates. We did a germination test on these seeds to see how well they would sprout, and they came up really well. And those are actually actively growing in our greenhouse right now. I potted them up just to see what they would do, and they all seemed to be bush beans, which is really exciting because they should do really well here. I'm hoping we're just going to kind of put them in, weed them once or twice with the wheel hoe and let them be, and then hopefully have dried beans at the end of the season. So this is our earthway seeder. I haven't really used it before. My husband used it to seed corn. Okay, so to put this on, we're just putting it kind of in there where it goes, and then you twist it and it locks on that. See that? Ooh. Look at them dropping those seeds. Yeah, I don't really care if this isn't quite perfect. I kind of just want to throw these in and let them be. I want to go back like right next to it and pop another row in of the same kind. I'm going to not have enough room to plant all these. I have way too many bean seeds. Okay, going heavy on this kind. All the bean seed out. It ended up being, I had way too many beans from the store, which is kind of nice because now we can just use these in the kitchen as they are originally intended for. So we ended up with a full row of Great Northern beans, a full row of dark red kidney beans. Then we did half a row of cannellini beans back with the map, half a row of pinto beans behind the cannellini beans. The back half of the far row is black beans. And then the front half of the far row are all of those more expensive beans that I ordered. So we have the white kidney beans, black turtle beans, and then cranberry beans all packed in right there, and they fit just fine. So You see how many more I got from the store, the grocery store, versus my bean seed order? Okay, we'll see how they all perform. So all we're gonna do now is put our drip tape in there, bury our drip tape. I figured when we bury the drip tape, we can just cover up those last few bean seeds. The seeder worked for most of the varieties, but for one of them, it would not spit the beans out, so I just seeded those by hand. And then I also seeded those that I bought from the seed company, also by hand, because there were so few of them. I didn't really want to put them in the seeder and go through all that. All right, let's get these covered up. Well, we're on to it. We're on to our last row in this giant field, what we consider a giant field of our, I guess, market garden crops, pretty much. So our last row that we are squeezing in here is something kind of weird. We are trying out some peanuts. We want to see if we can grow peanuts. He eats peanuts like crazy. I want to see if we can grow them. So we have 3 varieties to try that are more so northern varieties that should hopefully work out in our short growing season. We did start them early in the greenhouse to give them a good start. We have Northern Hardy Valencia peanuts, half a tray of those. We have a full tray of Tennessee red peanuts. And then we have a full tray of Schroen's deep black peanut. And they look pretty good. Like, look how cool these plants look. They almost remind me a little of purslane, which is a weed that we had at our last house. I'm trying to pop a plug out to show you how they ended up looking. They are really ready to get planted. Look how deep they're going. That might be our potting soil. We've kind of been having that issue with some things, but they look really healthy, really good. We started these 5/19, so today is 6/8. So under a month ago?
3 weeks.
Yeah, so they're doing really well. We're going to pop them in the ground. This is an experimental crop. We decided to throw a row in, and this is our last row, so let's get going. All right, first are, what is this, Valencia Northern? We're going to do half a tray of each of these because we only have that much space. That is it. This garden is officially planted. Yes. Okay, so it feels pretty good. We're going to kind of give you a rundown of what we have in this garden. It won't be exact variety names, but it'll just be a couple ideas of what we have. I'm sure we're going to miss some stuff, but we kind of focused on big crops in this garden that we wanted to produce like a mass amount of, I guess. And this is not our only garden, so we're just going to give you a rundown of this one and then get on to other things for the day. So starting on this end, we have 3 rows of squash. These are winter squash varieties out here. We have like Morgul, Delicata, spaghetti squash, butternut squash. We're doing a kashaw striped squash. We're doing another squash that I can't remember the name of, but it's a big green squash, a winter squash. So 3 rows of that. They're a 3-foot spacing, so about 100 plants over here of just viney winter squash. Next over here we have 4 rows of potatoes. I believe we have 2 of our red potato rows that we've been growing for a really long time. We don't know the variety name of, but we save seed from it and we just regrow it every year. And then we have Harvest Moon next to it, 2 rows of that. Those are new to us. I'm really excited about those. He planted these a little bit ago. I saw a couple little sprouts coming up somewhere. Where was it? Right here. Here's a couple. Here's a alfalfa plant, but here are a couple little sprouts coming up from the potatoes. That's about all the action we have so far. It is pretty new having this done. Today is June 8th, by the way, so that's the day we officially have all this in the ground. We're in Zone 4 in Montana, and that's just where we're at. So our next row, this is an experimental row. This is a peanut row. We have 2 different varieties in here, and I know in our last clip we said that was our last row. We could not waste those other peanuts that we already had started, so we decided to pop them in over there where we had an extra row from not planting out as many tomatoes as we had anticipated. So you'll see peanuts again a little bit down. Right here we have 4 rows of beans to go to bean seed to have dried beans in the pantry. This is not part of our market garden. This is just part of our garden for our pantry. So we'll see how they end up, kind of a big experiment over here, but I figured we have the room, so we're going to try to grow some of our own dried beans this year. Down here, we have the start of all of our tomatoes. These two rows right here, these are some tried and trusted varieties. We have bush steak and sunrise sauce. These plants do not get very big and unmanageable, so we put them on 3-foot spacing, and we're going to trellis them with a Florida weave, is our plan anyways. And then after these two rows, it gets a little bit more mixed up. We have like some beefsteak varieties next, and then after that we're doing our cherry rows, and then we go into more of like the heirloomy type ones like the Cherokee Purple and all of those big gorgeous tomatoes, and that goes down that way. We're through with tomatoes down here. Here are those other peanuts. We couldn't just throw them away, so we had to put them in somewhere. We had extra room right here. There's a little bit of room at the back of this row. John might throw some more potatoes in back there. Not really sure, but it's not really something we're counting on, so we're counting the garden as planted. Then after this, we start our chili field behind me. This is something we grew well last year, and so we decided to just like do it by the masses, I guess. This first row is Big Jim, as well as the next, I believe, like 10 or 12 rows over are all Big Jim from Sandia Seed Company. It's Hatch chili, obviously not grown in Hatch, but we're doing an experiment right here to see if this row and the rows beyond grow the same, considering those are matted and it gets really hot on that mat, compared to just in the dirt where we're going to have to weed. So Big Jim variety over here of chili. Then we come over here, wondering what we're going to do with all this green chili. I am wondering it too. We're going to have to find a way to sell it. Right about here somewhere we start a couple different kinds of chili. We have a Joe E. Parker Red Medium, I believe is what it's called, also from Sandia Seed Company. We did about a row and a half of that, and then about a row and a half of Big Jim Legacy. So that's supposed to be similar to the Big Jim, but in the description it said it was even a little bit better. So I wanted to try it out to see if it is actually better, because last year those Big Jim chilies performed super well. So we have that in here, and then this stick kind of marks where our bell peppers and jalapenos and banana peppers, where those all start. And of course I have this all mapped, but they start right here. I know that that is John's Park Swapper jalapenos that he loves, and then we have banana peppers, and everything is, I know what it all is, but I can't tell you right now because I don't have that map in front of me. But these are all of our peppers that a lot of these will come into our house and we will use these. So it is kind of mixed with what we're selling out here and what we're keeping out here. And of course we are going to keep some chili also and other things out there. All right. And then over here we have our strawberries. These are our ever-bearing strawberries. So these should produce this year. We put a video out where we showed you guys how we planted these. We have flowers coming in on them. This has done pretty well so far. We haven't come out here to weed or do a thing with it besides make sure on a couple windy days that this weed mat did not blow away. I did also come and correct some of our spacing where we had burned. It wasn't quite on and the fabric stretched and moved. So I made some of our holes a little bit bigger, and that's just what I decided to do so that these plants could live. Not ideal, not perfect, but I think it's going to work to let the plants live. And then we have our little dead space, I guess is what I'm calling it, because that space will be for whenever these strawberry plants make runners. We're going to pop them in over there and overwinter them hopefully, and hopefully have them for next season. And then there's 4 rows beyond that. Those 4 rows are more potatoes. Over there we have Huckleberry Gold, which we grew last year. We loved them. We saved the seed, and that's what we're growing over there. And then we have 1 row of Pinto Gold next to that Huckleberry Gold, and that is a new seed potato to us. And then we have 1 row of just our saved, we call them just white potatoes because we don't know the variety name, but we've been saving them, so we're going to keep growing them because they do well for us. So anyways, that is it. If you want to see how this garden and the other garden projects come out, please consider liking and subscribing. And thanks so much for watching this video where we worked tirelessly to get this garden all the way planted, and now we have it in. So hopefully with all this weed mat, we can kind of sit back and relax a little, because we have knocked out a big chunk of our weeding efforts that we would normally have to be doing if we wanted to grow this much food. So thanks so much for watching, and catch us on the next one.